The emerald green of the lawn reflected in the crystal of the champagne flute I held. Sunlight glinted off the expensive watch on my wrist. It was the annual Founders Gala, a night of networking, schmoozing, and strategic alliances. Tonight was especially important. Tonight, the successor to my grandfather's legacy was to be announced. I, Evelyn, smiled politely as I was introduced to yet another prospective investor. Dressed in a perfectly tailored, off-the-shoulder gown, I looked every inch the successful, poised businesswoman. My background was the stuff of legends, born into wealth, educated at the finest schools, groomed from childhood to take the reins of the family empire, Davenport Industries. A company built by my grandfather, a man who'd built from the ground up, and one who'd made it clear his grandchild would take over. But as the company's CEO, Arthur, took the stage, I felt the air thicken with a horrible, creeping certainty. His voice, amplified by the microphone, cut through the room like a knife. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I have the distinct pleasure of announcing the next CEO of Davenport Industries. Arthur paused for dramatic effect, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. It landed on her. My sister, Seraphina. A collective gasp. A wave of murmurs. I felt my blood run cold. Seraphina Davenport. The world tilted. Seraphina, dressed in a shimmering silver gown, rose from her table and walked onto the stage, a triumphant smile plastered across her face. The applause felt distant, muffled, as if I were underwater. I didn't react. Not outwardly. I raised my glass, took a long, deliberate sip of champagne, and watched as my life, my future, was stolen before my very eyes. My heart hammered against my ribs. It wasn't just the company. It was the betrayal. The blatant, calculated theft of everything I had worked for. Seraphina had always been different. She was charismatic, charming, and a master manipulator. She thrived in the spotlight, while I preferred the shadows, the quiet work of building a foundation. She had never shown an interest in the company, preferring the glitz and glamour of the social scene. She was a socialite, not a businesswoman. The betrayal went further. She had been secretly working behind the scenes with Arthur, the CEO, to undermine me. She had used her social connections, her charm, and a web of lies to turn the board against me. They had framed me. I discovered a trove of emails, hidden text messages, and coded financial transactions. They were both in cahoots. She had been slowly poisoning my relationships, spreading rumors about my competency, and painting me as someone unfit to lead. The whole world had been set against me, but I could see now. I was the victim. The truth was, I always knew Seraphina was a viper. But I foolishly underestimated the extent of her ambition, her ruthlessness. She had exploited my trust, my loyalty, and my family's legacy, all for her own personal gain. And then there were the accomplices. My friends, who were on Seraphina's payroll. The members of the board, who seemed to be easily swayed by her charms. The lawyer who was secretly working for her as well. It was a network of deceit, a carefully constructed plan to steal everything I held dear. Are you ready for this story? Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible true stories. My heart hammered against my ribs. It wasn't just the company. It was the betrayal. The blatant, calculated theft of everything I had worked for. Seraphina had always been different. She was charismatic, charming, and a master manipulator. She thrived in the spotlight, while I preferred the shadows, the quiet work of building a foundation. She had never shown an interest in the company, preferring the glitz and glamour of the social scene. She was a socialite, not a businesswoman. The betrayal went further. She had been secretly working behind the scenes with Arthur, the CEO, to undermine me. She had used her social connections, her charm, and a web of lies to turn the board against me. They had framed me. I discovered a trove of emails, hidden text messages, and coded financial transactions. They were both in cahoots. She had been slowly poisoning my relationships, spreading rumors about my competency, and painting me as someone unfit to lead. The whole world had been set against me, but I could see now. I was the victim. The truth was, I always knew Seraphina was a viper. But I foolishly underestimated the extent of her ambition, her ruthlessness. She had exploited my trust, my loyalty, and my family's legacy, all for her own personal gain. And then there were the accomplices. My friends, who were on Seraphina's payroll. The members of the board, who seemed to be easily swayed by her charms. The lawyer who was secretly working for her as well. It was a network of deceit, a carefully constructed plan to steal everything I held dear. I didn't go straight to the press. I was smarter than that. I was prepared to fight. I had to play the long game, and the first step was to gather evidence. The second step was to build the strongest defense I could. I knew I had to work in the shadows. I couldn't risk tipping my hand. I went to my safe house, where I worked with the best private investigators money could buy. They dug into Arthur's past, uncovering hidden debts, shady business practices, and a trail of indiscretions that would make him vulnerable. My focus shifted to Seraphina's finances. Her lifestyle was expensive, far beyond her means. Where was she getting the money? I knew it couldn't all be the money from the company. I found multiple accounts in various tax havens, hidden from public view. I found out the funds had been hidden from my father's estate. He was the previous CEO, and these funds would have gone to me. I had always been trained to think like a CEO, to analyze, to strategize, to plan. I decided I would turn the tables. I am a very intelligent person, and now was my time to show what I could do. I used my knowledge of the company, my connections in the industry, and a network of trusted allies to begin building my counteroffensive. My grandfather had built Davenport Industries on integrity, innovation, and shrewd business decisions. I would use those same principles to dismantle Seraphina's empire and reclaim my life. I knew what was at stake: my family's legacy, my financial security, and my own sense of self-worth. I would not fail. I had to prepare, I had to plan. I had to take my life back. I started to reach out to old friends and contacts. Many were willing to hear me out. They knew Seraphina and had always been weary of her true intentions. I knew that I was not alone. Months later, during Davenport Industries' annual shareholders' meeting, I saw my moment. Seraphina, radiating an air of smug confidence, was seated at the head table, surrounded by her yes-men and her puppets. Arthur was sitting next to her. This was their victory lap. I walked down the aisle, dressed in a powerful, yet simple, suit, my gaze unwavering. I had to look like the woman I was. I went and took the stage, interrupting Seraphina's speech. The room went silent. Seraphina's smile faltered. Arthur's face paled. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice clear and strong. "I have a few things I'd like to share." I held up a small, sealed envelope. "And before we continue with the proceedings, I have a message from my late father." The room held its breath. I handed the envelope to the company's lawyer. Inside was a detailed dossier of my findings, the financial records, the emails, the text messages, the evidence of fraud, and the legal actions I was initiating against Seraphina and Arthur. The lawyer read the information and looked terrified. Seraphina started trembling. She was completely shocked. That meeting, that envelope, was my opening move. The first domino to fall. Later that day, I confronted Seraphina. I found her alone in her office, the walls of which I knew so well. "How could you, Evelyn?" she hissed, her voice laced with a mixture of anger and fear. "After everything we've been through, everything we shared?" "Everything we shared? You mean the life you stole from me?" I replied, my voice icy. Seraphina tried to manipulate me. She tried to claim she was protecting the company, that I was not fit to run it. She tried to paint herself as the victim. I did what I had to do, Evelyn. The company was in trouble. You weren't strong enough. Dad would have wanted this, she tried to justify her actions, her eyes darting around the room. I met her gaze. You're lying. Dad wanted me to lead this company. You know it. And you knew exactly what you were doing. Her facade began to crack. She screamed, then started to beg. Please, Evelyn, don't do this. Let's work together. We can fix this. I will make it right. You have to. I knew this was not her true self. It was a desperation. You will not do anything. The choices you made have consequences, Seraphina. You thought you were so clever, so charming. But you underestimated me. I revealed everything, Arthur's dirty secrets, the legal actions, the impending investigations. I laid out every detail. You're finished, Seraphina. You've lost. My father's will was read. In it, he left me everything. But he had also provided for his other child, but it was very clear that I was the one who was meant to lead. He had always known. Our mother, heartbroken by Seraphina's actions, finally saw the truth. Our other family members were disgusted. The division was clear. I don't understand, Seraphina, our mother said, her voice laced with a pain I could feel. Why? Why did you do this to your sister? To your family? Seraphina tried to defend herself, to offer some kind of explanation, but her words rang hollow. It was clear that she had chosen ambition and greed over family loyalty. The truth was, there was no explanation, no justification for what she had done. I was not able to talk to Seraphina again. I did not want to deal with her excuses. I found solace in the support of my friends, colleagues, and my father's old associates, the ones who had seen Seraphina's true colors from the beginning. They rallied around me, offering their expertise and their unwavering support. They knew the value of a family. The need for integrity. The collapse was as swift as it was complete. Arthur was ousted from his position. The legal investigations began, and everything was exposed. His career was ruined. His life was ruined. Seraphina's world crumbled around her. The board turned on her. The shareholders revolted. Her social circle evaporated. Her bank accounts were frozen. The mansion, her friends, they were all gone. Her lavish lifestyle, her expensive clothes, her designer handbags, everything was taken from her. She was left with nothing but the consequences of her actions. I watched her downfall, not with glee, but with a sense of grim satisfaction. She had chosen this path. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. What kind of karma do you think Seraphina deserves? Let me know. With Seraphina out of the picture and Arthur in jail, I stepped back into my rightful place. It was a long road to recovery, but I am ready to lead. I rebuilt Davenport Industries, focusing on my grandfather's values. I modernized, I innovated, and I put a strong team in place. I was now the CEO of Davenport Industries. But it wasn't just about the company. It was about reclaiming my life, my identity, and my sense of self. I took the time to travel, to explore, to pursue my passions. I reconnected with old friends, built new relationships, and learned to trust again. I found my own happiness, separate from the company and from my family. I am now free. My wealth provided me with freedom and opportunity. But more importantly, I had found freedom from the constraints of fear, doubt, and betrayal. I was no longer defined by what had been stolen from me. I was defined by what I had built myself. They say you can't choose your family, but you can choose your destiny. In the end, I got back the life that was stolen from me, and I learned the true meaning of resilience, and the ultimate power of reclaiming your story. And as for Seraphina? I wouldn't be surprised to hear of her someday working in a diner.